So what we're going to do is tell you about the journey that we've been doing with Green King, and that journey is ongoing. So actually today we are doing some more filming with them. So it's an ongoing journey, but hopefully towards the end of the session we're going to share some experiences that we've done with them, but also to show you some content as well, and give you an opportunity to ask some questions. As this is the first session of the day, in true keeping with things, we're going to do a bit of a warm-up thing, but it's a very quick warm-up. As a matter of interest, without looking at your phones, do you know how many pubs there are in the UK? Have a guess. 50,000, 5,000? 22 million. 22 million. For all the home brewers, of course, 22. A lot less than there used to be. Okay. Who said 50,000? Yeah, so it's just under. It's just about 48,500 pubs in the UK. But as you say, they are dwindling. But I think it's still very much an experience that is prominent within this country, of course. And it was really an opportunity for us to be working with them. I know Alex has got an even more interesting
Yes,
stat.
so another pop quiz. What is the most popular pub name in the UK? There are a lot of pub goers or pub quiz goers in this audience. That is great, well done. So yes, as our host mentioned, we're going to be talking through around how we're helping Green King optimize candidate experience and behavioural fit.
Yeah, so I thought it would be, before we get into the Green King story, I thought it would be useful just to kind of share some of the insights that we found when we think about the whole business of volume recruiting and some of the challenges that come to pass as well. And I think a key challenge, and certainly something that mattered to Green King, was the whole sense of what we call candidate engagement, really being able to engage with the candidate. Because what you've got there is a pool of people who are tech savvy. We've got a very competitive recruitment market, and obviously there's 48,000 pubs, so there's lots of different pubs that people can choose from to work from. Candidates as customers, so that's increasingly the force. So you may not get a job with us, but actually you'll still be a candidate. You'll still be a customer of ours. And obviously a key thing in terms of maintaining that organisational brand. And interestingly enough, more recent research is saying that actually what really matters as much as anything else is that emotional appeal that an organisation can bring. So there is that engagement bit, but it's can I connect at an emotional level as well? So that candidate experience is obviously key. But in terms of the organisation, obviously we want to be effective in terms of who we're hiring. We want to be spot on in terms of the people that come on board. And there's pressure to hire the right people. So we need to make sure we've got the right people in place. Obviously, there's that focus in terms of diversity and inclusion and making sure that that's representative for the organisation and that we're taking that on board. We want to reduce attrition, and in that industry, that's a particular challenge. And we'll go into some stats on that a bit later. But reducing attrition, but obviously we want people to be up and running as quickly as possible, so improving that new hire performance. And I guess the other part of it is then the efficiency of the process that we're doing. Often a lot of organisations have a lean resourcing operation. There's not necessarily lots of HR people doing lots of stuff in terms of recruitment, so we need to be kind of fine-tuned in terms of that. There's a pressure in terms of speed up time to hire. So we offer someone a job, we want to get them up to speed, we want to take them on board quickly. And obviously the whole pressure in terms of reducing costs. So all of these three things here, in terms of that candidate experience, that effectiveness of hiring, but obviously in terms of that efficiency, are key. And there's some metrics around that as well, which I think is important to think about. So 64% of new hires do not receive an accurate picture of what the job will be like. So the person comes on board, oh, I didn't expect that. Oh, I didn't know you did that in the job. So that sense in terms of what is the reality check in terms of this job, but also in terms of this organisation as well. And 1 in 4 candidates report having a negative recruiting experience. And I suspect that figure might be slightly higher nowadays. So issues in terms of that candidate experience. In terms of effectiveness, 1 in 5 new hires are considered bad or regretted decisions. So that's an issue. So people end up leaving, we have to recruit more people, and there's a cost involved on that, and there's an impact on other people as well. 1 in 4 new retail hires leave within 1 year. So again, there's an issue in terms of that whole attrition piece particularly in that sector. But in terms of efficiencies, 65% of applicants do not meet the basic requirements. So people are coming through the process, but actually we haven't taken account about what's actually needed or whether or not that person is fit for the role and is able to do the role. And the time it takes to select candidates has increased by over 30%. So although technology is out there, actually it's taking more and more time to actually recruit people in. So all of these things are having an impact in terms of the organisation. And in the sense with Green King, it was about how can we start to mitigate all of these things here. So I think the journey for us and Green King was thinking about what is it you want to achieve from this? What are the outcomes for you as an organisation? And this is a focus we very much do when we talk to organisations. It's think, well, you want to do this, but what is the outcome? What are people looking for? What will tell you that this has been successful? So we look at a number of things: brand strength. How do I position my brand in the organisation? The quality of hire, am I getting the right people? Am I getting the right people in terms of how diverse they are? Is the system efficient? Internal mobility. So if you're thinking things like succession and so forth, how easily can we enable that? Candidate engagement. So that's an important thing. Are we engaging with the candidate? Are they going to go away, even if they don't get the job, to be clients of ours in the future? Manager engagement, so those individuals who are going to be looking after those people that come into the organisation. And obviously we want people to get up to speed as quickly as possible in terms of productivity. So all of these things here have an impact, but depending on where the organisation is or what their focus is, they're probably going to pull out a few things from here.
So that covers a little bit about the research and the outcomes that we're looking to achieve from this process. But without the context of Green King, that doesn't give us much. So let's talk a little bit about Green King, and I'll try and do my best, Alice, for you all. So Green King, well, actually, no. Let's talk about SHL. So SHL, as an organisation, we recently were acquired by a private equity firm. Now, SHL actually is a long-standing organisation, so we like to see ourselves as a brand new 40-year-old organisation. But we have nothing on Green King. So Green King, as an organisation, was originally founded around 200 years ago. In 1799, a gentleman called Mr. Green set up the brewery, Benjamin Green, and his son later joined up with a Frederick King a few years later, and so Green King was born. Now, the organisation grew in a number of different pubs aside from their breweries, but around 20 years ago, they went through an exponential shift in how they were growing as an organisation. So they acquired a number of different companies. First of all, Hungry Horse. And in 3 years ago, they acquired the Sprint Pub Company. Overnight, they turned from an organisation with 1,900 pubs to 3,100 pubs, almost doubling their reach as an organisation. And what that created is a number of different talent challenges around talent alignment within their different businesses, their different brands, and how they were going to plan and work around that. Some of the really interesting things about Green King as a business, obviously 40,000 employees strong, 1,700 of their pubs they directly manage the staff within as well, and around 80% of their staff they believe are under 28 years old. So it really gives them a demographic that they need to work with from that engagement perspective, from that getting their brand out there to those individuals. And when Alice talks to us about her resourcing strategy, there are 4 key things that she's looking at. And these are the headlines for you. So improved quality of hire within their business. Sharing talent better within the brands to create opportunities for different roles so that people have a career within Green King and not just a role. Improving employer brand. So brand is everything, according to Green King and Alice. So you don't become an organisation that's been around for 200 years without having the opportunity to keep focusing on what does that brand mean to both consumers, but also the people that we get into the businesses to run them. And lastly, understanding what good looks like. So one of the key challenges around doubling as a business overnight and not really understanding where that talent misalignment is we need to get a good grip of what does great talent look like within Green King. So, the burning platform, as Alice calls it. Up to 1,000 external hires per year across 3 key management roles: general manager, kitchen manager, and assistant manager. And this is where we were brought in to support. Within those roles and others, the 90-day retention rate within Green King is very low. Now, this is kind of counterintuitive because actually when you get to understand Green King as a business, it's a very caring, very supportive culture internally who will help develop staff. However, that message really needs to be pushed out to potential candidates to really show that actually this is somewhere that you can have a career, but not just a bar job. And to fill these roles, Green King currently manages around 150 live vacancies. So I'm sure you'll all have understanding of this. And at any one time, 300 applications are coming in within a week. And it's core for Alice that the process that we helped with fitted into a fully integrated end-to-end HR system. And that's really for the candidate's perspective to really understand, they want something intuitive. Don't forget, 80% of their actual workforce is under 28, and it's a very big push for the types of people who are engaged with their organisation. So they need that to be up to date and fitting with that audience. The 3 key areas going to the business outcomes that they wanted to measure. So quality of hire, we've covered that. Brand strength, brand is everything at Green King. And candidate engagement along that journey.
Okay, so in terms of the solution that we are working with Green King on, because at the moment we are working with them, just to give you a sense, it's what we call our precise fit mobile optimized solution. And the key thing for us is that what the individual sees in terms of that assessment part is very much based on what is it that's going to define success in that role. So not only what does the organisation look like, what is it like to work here, but actually what we want to get at is what is it that actually underpins success. So when we go through an assessment process, that those individuals that go through to that are the ones that are most likely to demonstrate the things that we see as key to success. And when you look, and we'll show you some excerpts later, but in terms of the final product, it's very much going to be a focus in terms of what we see people doing in the roles. So not only thinking about what defines success, but actually bringing to life the job and making sure people feel, right, I can engage with that. I identify with that individual. I see what's relevant in that job. I see the good things. I see the other things as well, but I also have an understanding about what's going to define success. In terms of a process that we go through, in terms of that precise fit part, the first part is what we call the guide bit. So it's making the right impression. So the individual gets a sense of, okay, well, this is this organisation here. What is this role? And really having a very top-line view such that they can then start to make a decision about whether or not they continue with that assessment process.
A lot of assessment processes aren't that clear at the get-go. So really what we're trying to do is provide a journey for a candidate so that they know up front how much time they're going to have to spend on this process. So they can see clearly, these are the steps ahead of me, this is the step that I'm at now.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point, Alex, because that's one of the biggest disengagers, as it were, that people feel, I went through this whole process, I spent half an hour doing it, but actually this isn't the thing for me. So it's really maintaining that engagement, and even if it isn't the right type of role for me, the right type of company for me, it doesn't mean that I can't still be a customer. So we go through that bit there, and then it's starting to think about, okay, well, in terms of the job, let's have a look and see what is it that a manager has to do. If I'm a kitchen manager or an assistant manager, what are the types of things that I'm going to find in that role? What are the kind of everyday things that I need to deal with? Is that something that I actually feel that I can do? Is it something that I'm less comfortable with? But the idea is that we're really trying to create not just an engaging sense of the role, but also a reality check about the role as well, giving people the opportunity to say, do you know what, I want to continue with this, or maybe this isn't for me. And I think the key thing with that is that people get immediate feedback. So that feedback is thinking about those key behaviours, but also thinking about in terms of the sort of things that you want to do or don't want to do, what that might mean in terms of whether or not you might be a good fit for the job or otherwise. So really it's about doing that in an efficient way, in a way that is relevant to that role, but in a way that also gives people that information for them to make that decision about themselves. But at the same time, highlighting the brand. So what we've got here is just an example in terms of the feedback an individual got in terms of how they responded to those realistic job preview scenarios.
Absolutely, and using a device-optimized player enables them to access it from any different device, but at the same time it enables us to put in video content. And we know that video content is the most engaging type of content for individuals within that age bracket. So they can directly speak in a way that those individuals are going to understand and really connect with. So we'll see some of that shortly.
And the final part of it is once people have gone through the initial part of that process, so they feel that, do you know what, I want to invest the time here, I want to think about whether or not this is the right job for me, we then take them through to this assessment part, which is the part that's very much psychometrically based in terms of we've identified those critical behaviours that define success, and really getting a sense of the individual. They're filling in what we call a situational judgment test, all brought to life in terms of that kind of live video format, and it gives them the opportunity to respond to various questions, and that will then say whether or not that person is the candidate we want to take forward or not, or we can go through to the next stage of the assessment process.
So that's the process within which the candidate journey sits. But now let's see a little bit more about Geake and what they're achieving with us. So Geake are working with us in a full multimedia sort of immersive solution to connect to that candidate pool. Hot off the press, actually yesterday, we've got some video content in here which we'll shortly show you. But obviously, as you saw and Andy talked through, we've got the different stages, the immediate feedback there. And this is some of the shots of when we were doing the filming with Geake. I suppose we should say at this point that doing a multimedia immersive experience, has anyone in this room done that for their organisation? At this point. So it's something that's really interesting to do. First of all, because it engages your organisation and the pool, and it actually creates a real nice connection to the people within the business. Because like Geake, you can use actual staff as well as potentially actors within the content to really get that feel and vibe across. One of the things that has to be noted is that it does take time. So there are lots of little things that you need to think about and get right. So we as an organisation can do as much project planning and support as possible, but ensuring that you've got the right individuals there with the right fit, thinking about wardrobe, thinking about where you want these individuals to be. Is it in the pub? Are you using green screen? Lots of different elements that we've walked through with Geake that are really worth noting.
And I think as well, actually, with that what we found with this approach is that for organisations who are looking to kind of embed values and competencies, this can actually be a really effective way of doing that, because as Alex said, when we're getting the involvement of members of staff there, that is that way of bringing those values and competencies to life.
And it's helped get that stakeholder buy-in within the business, so that then when you're getting to the next stage of actually implementing, you've got backing from the business, because those individuals have been involved. You've had senior stakeholder engagement. So now on to a few videos.
Your value is real people in our business here at Geake doing real roles. What you're going to see isn't the glittery, fluffy version of what these roles involve. It's the real life version. So you're going to hear about all the challenges that come with working with us at Geake, but also all the immense rewards that you'll get along with it. If you decide at the end of it that it's not for you, that's not a problem at all. You're very welcome to come back anytime and explore our roles again.
So this would sit at one of the first stages for them to get an introduction to the business. But that's Alice, so she's head of resourcing at Geake, and she's directly speaking to that candidate pool. And she wants to engage, she wants to tell that this is a realistic view of what our business and our roles are about, but also very conscious that it's likely those individuals who are applying for roles are equally going to be attending one of their pubs potentially and having a drink at the weekend. So they don't want to put off that candidate pool from attending their pubs. So from there, we then move through to people within the organisation giving a realistic view of what it's like to work at Greake.
The guests are the heart of our business. If we didn't have the guests, we wouldn't have a business.
Wide variety of customers, and they all come in for different reasons. Some pop in for a drink after work, some come in for a family meal.
Our guests stay longer when they see the value, when they see the service, when they see the standards of my business.
They stay in because they enjoy themselves, whether that's the quiz, whether that's bingo, whether that's a band. It's about keeping customers happy, and they'll stay for longer when you do.
They are the people that are supplying our wages. They come in and spend their hard-earned cash, and getting their loyalty is absolutely key to driving your business forward.
Feedback within the business is imperative in my eyes.
Social media is really important to the full business. You've got to be savvy on social media.
So we live in a world now where the social media, TripAdvisor, Google review is just commonplace in the market.
There's reviews coming in all the time. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. And it's about responding to those to keep a positive presence on social media.
It's about being a community and having local people come into your pub, you know their names, they know your name, they know the team. It's a real local family sort of environment, which is lovely.
The relationship between the team and the customer is so important. It's not just a case of doing the day-to-day job, it's laughing with them, it's crying with them.
Becoming the hub of the community will really help drive your business forward, and that's a really important piece in how Greake delivers its businesses. If we're not acting local and being part of a community, we can't expect us to deliver and go forward.
Do I enjoy my job? 100%. I wouldn't do anything else.
I absolutely love my job, but I'm not going to lie, there has been some sticky days where you think to yourself, oh my God.
If you've got the ability and the drive to want to succeed, Greake will support you in your journey forward.
So real people from a real company sharing their view of what the organisation is like and their roles. And candidates would have that option to then choose whether they want to progress within the process and go through to an assessment stage, which we're still doing some filming for, or actually take themselves out of the process at each stage.
Yeah, and I think the thing with this was very much about focusing on that brand. So that's very much, I think, coming through in there, really about getting that candidate engagement part in there, so that the use of that film, as Alex said, very much about bringing people with you, really kind of having an impact in terms of candidate, but also in terms of the efficiency of the process as well. And as Alex says, this is hot off the press, so filming is actually going on today somewhere, but I think there are about 7 Greake pubs within.
So there's 6 Greake pubs within a mile of this location, and the closest one, I believe, I googled it yesterday, is 384 feet from here. So maybe a bit later, we'll go for a drink. Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll open to the floor and any questions if we've got time.